You called games with Earl Weaver, right?
Oh, yeah.
On baseball.
Baseball, 2 years worth.
You got a good one for me on this front?
A good one for you? I got a lot of good ones.
Okay.
Nobody could destroy the language more than Earl, right? But on it was the first couple of games we worked with Earl.
Yes.
I mean, Earl was, the Bantam Rooster, right? And he got thrown out of 100 games. So Earl, you know what Earl was as a manager. But we're working with him, and I'm working with Howard Cosell and Earl. And Earl won't move. I mean, his head is like this because he's got the headset. And it took Howard and me a couple of games to understand Earl was afraid to move his head because the headset would come off if he did. Mm-hmm. Earl, this is fine. The headset moves with your mouth. You have to understand that. But what Earl and I, we were doing a game alone in Kansas City in 83 or 84. And we're in the Monday Night Baseball. We're in the car going to the airport on Tuesday morning. And Earl's got a little like ledger book, and I see him scratching out some numbers. And I think he's doing stats. I said, what are you doing? He said, I'm adding in last night's fee to my net worth. I said, what are you doing? He said, if I never get to work again, this is how much money I will have, and figuring out, how long I can live and have not run out of money. So Earl was like a human actuarial table, sitting there in the car, figuring out what his net worth was every Tuesday morning.
He had a number. His actual
divided
net worth
by, right.
After Monday Night Football,
Here's
you're going
my
to the
fee.
airport.
I'm adding it to my net worth divided by how long I think I'm going to live.
So you were in a booth with Earl Weaver
Yeah.
and Howard Cosell.
Right. So, Rich, we're doing the. I don't know if we have to go to a commercial or
No,
what.
go ahead. We got time.
We're doing the
Go ahead.
1983 World Series.
Yeah.
Me, Earl, who had just retired, would come back eventually.
Yeah.
And now Joe Altobelli takes over and they win the World Series.
That's right.
It's Baltimore
With Cal
against-
Ripken,
it's
right? Wasn't he a rookie?
Baltimore against Philadelphia. I think it might have been his second year.
Right, okay.
It's Baltimore against Philadelphia. So the first game of that series is in Baltimore. And it's either Wednesday, whatever night, a midweek night. Mm-hmm. Two things happened that night. Number one, I'm out in the hallway behind the booth, half an hour before the game, and I meet Bob Costas for the first time. And Bob is at NBC, and, his career was ascending, and, hey, a couple of young guys, hey, it's great, good to see you, blah, 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 blah. And Cosell walks by. And Costas sees Cosell, who's coming up from behind me, and goes, Howard, he says, just want to say hello. I'm Bob Costas with NBC. And Cosell says, the cigar, I know who you are. You're the child who rhapsodizes about the infield fly rule. I'm sure you'll have a fine career. Right?
Wow.
That was Cosell's initial interaction with Bob Costas.
On the first night you met Bob.
The first night. I
With Earl Weaver waiting for you.
I met him, and then Howard walks by. Wow. I mean, it's within 3 minutes of each other. Okay? So now it's 83, and Ronald Reagan's in the White House,
Yes, sir.
and the president is coming to the game. Mm-hmm. And Cosell is going to interview him in the fifth inning. So in the old Memorial Stadium in Baltimore, you'd walk in the door, and there'd be a landing, and then you go down about 3 steps, and the broadcast position was there. So Cosell in the fifth inning, he goes up the steps. They open up the door for Reagan to come in, be interviewed by Cosell. And I am sitting, a little below them and toward and an angle. And, of course, you've got, 45,000 people in Memorial Stadium out there. And the thought that came into my mind was kind of crazy. But I thought to myself, I am sitting in the line of fire of the 2 most assassinatable men in America. So fortunately, everything worked out fine. but I mean, the crazy stuff that comes into your head, and you go, don't say it. Don't say this. That was the case.
Cosell, did he really love being hated, or it was something that he learned to live with, or?
Yeah, I think he look. Everybody wants to be admired and respected and loved, I guess. And Howard did too.
Yeah.
But he knew how to deal with it. I mean, in a way, Howard, in sportscaster polls in that era, he would be the best and the worst. So, I mean, Howard was polarizing. Howard was different. But Howard enjoyed, to a certain extent, doing what he did. But Howard always felt that, I don't want to say the business was beneath him. He was more interested in actually doing news than sports. And he never forgave Roone Arledge for, at Munich in 1972, during the Israeli massacre, putting Jim McKay in the seat where Jim would go on to, win a news Emmy, and Howard was sitting off on the side. So he never forgave Roone for that.
Because again, there was an annual poll for most liked, most disliked.
Sure.
And it had been held for years and years and years, and Cosell was the most liked and disliked. One year, my great friend and colleague, may he rest in peace, Stuart Scott, won most liked and most disliked as well. USA Today did some poll, and he won both.
Really?
And I remember I went up to him and I'm like, what do you think about that? And he thought to himself, you know what? The people who don't like me don't know me. The people who like me know me. And he just went about his business.
You have to.
But I think it definitely bothered him. There's no question about it. It definitely bothered him.
You're talking about Stewart.
Stewart, yes.
Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about.
I mean, Howard knew that he was respected and admired by a lot of people.
Right.
And he was a complicated guy, a hugely intelligent man, obviously. I worked with him for a number of years on Monday Night Baseball and a few other events. And at first, it was a lot of fun. I mean, it was great. I mean, some of the greatest stories I have, it's a whole chapter in my book.
Yes. Howard
Cosell. I mean, I could have written 50 pages instead of like 18 or 19. But toward the end, he grew tired of the business. He grew tired of a lot of things.
Yeah, the jockocracy he was talking about.
It was hard. And Howard wrote a book. He wrote two books, but the second of which came out in 1985. And, we're doing Monday Night Baseball. It's our year to do the World Series. I'm assigned to do the World Series with Jim Palmer and Howard. And Howard's book came out about 2 weeks before the World Series. And in it, I got niggled a little bit. I mean, he just gave me a little shot here and there. He was vicious with Gifford, and he was terrible with Arledge. So Arledge is his boss. And Arledge decided to take him off the World Series.
Wow.
And put Tim McCarver in there, which was, frankly, a blessing for me because I loved Tim. And of all the booths I've worked in, a three-man booth is a little unwieldy and a little difficult. But I always felt that working with McCarver and Palmer, and we did, 3 or 4 World Series together, All-Star games, playoffs, big Monday night games. I always felt that was the one three-man booth that worked better as a 3 than either of us would have been as a 2. So, which is very unusual. But anyway, McCarver for Cosell was a pretty good trade for me.
Well, I mean, you want to talk about remarkable batteries. I mean, Palmer and McCarver to talk baseball. They're two of the greats to do it. And Jim's still doing Oriole games whenever I can listen to. I guess it's Masson there in the Mid-Atlantic.
Yeah, Jim does about 80 to 100 games. Yeah,
pretty sweet. Catch the Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku channel, 12 to 3 Eastern, for free.